Good morning. I am Dr. Amandeep Gill, Associate Professor of Department of Pharmaceutics in a School of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Today here I am going to discuss the topic on the Pharmaceutical Jurisprudence, that is the Pharmacy Act. It is a Pharmacy Act 1948, and there are the different contents in this act, like a history of the Pharmacy Act. I am going to discuss about the objective of the Pharmacy Act, its definition, the Pharmacy Council of the India, Provisional Pharmacy Council, registration of pharmacist, renewal fees, removal of name from the register, and issue of duplicate certificates of registration, and its offences and the penalties. First of all, there is a history of the Pharmacy Act. In India, earlier what happens, there was a no restriction to practice the pharmacy profession. One could practice this profession in any other profession also. So that persons having no knowledge and having no education in pharmacy or in pharmaceutical chemistry or in pharmacology and pharmaceutics, but they were engaged in this profession. 100 of the cases were found by the government wherein the compounding, mixing, dispensing of the medicines was done by a person who were not adequately educated in this line. These causing great harm to the health of the people. It was necessary to enact a law for the regulation of profession and practice of the pharmacy. Now I am going to discuss about the objectives of the pharmacy profession. So to overcome all these problems that I had discussed in the history, these are overcome according to this law. To restore the pharmacy profession in its due places in health services. Next, for raising the standard and status of the profession of pharmacy in India, and to regulate the practice of pharmacy in India. To provide the uniform education and to provide the uniform training throughout the India. To maintain the control over the profession of the pharmacy for the entrance of, for the profession of pharmacy, and to protect the public health from drug abuse and from the medicinal use of the drugs. Next are the definitions. First, Pharmacy Act. Pharmacy Act, it is an act that is to regulate the profession of the pharmacy. Next, medical practitioner, that is a one person who hold a qualification granted by authority notified under the Section 3 of Indian Medical Degrees Act 1916 or specified in the schedules to the Indian Medical Council Act 1960 or 1956, or registered or eligible for registration in the medical register of the state, meant for the registration of person practicing the modern scientific system of medicine, or a person registered in medical register of the state who, although not falling within above first and a second clause, but is declared by the general or a special order made by the state government, or registered or eligible for registration in the registers of the dentist for the state under the Dentist Act 1948, or a person who is engaged in practice of veterinary medicine who possesses qualification approved by the state government. Next is a registered pharmacist. Who is a registered pharmacist? A person whose name is for the time being entered in the register of the state, in which he or she is for time being residing or carrying on his profession or business of the pharmacy. Next is a Pharmacy Council of the India. It is a central council that is known as a PCI. It is constituted by the central government. First central council was constituted in 1949. It is reconstituted every 5 years. There are the different members in the composition of the PCI. It consists of the elected members, nominated members, and ex officio members. In the elected members, there are the 6 members that are elected by the UGC, University Grant Commission. There is at least one teacher of each of the pharmaceutical chemistry, pharmaceutics, pharmacognosy, and pharmacology. And one member must be elected by the Medical Council of the India. And one member elected by the State Council who shall be a registered pharmacist. Second is the nominated members. Again here 6 members that are nominated by the central government, of whom at least 4 shall possessing a degree or diploma in pharmacy and practicing pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry or pharmacology or pharmaceutics, and a representative of University Grant Commission and representative of AICTE, that is a All India Council for Technical Education. One member nominated by each state government who shall be a registered pharmacist. Then in the ex officio members, there is the Director General of Health Services, the Director of the Central Drug Laboratory, and the Drug Controller of India. Then for the executive committee, for the same, it shall consist of the President, Vice President, and 5 members elected by the Central Council from its members. President and the Vice President of Central Council shall be elected by the members of Council from themselves. A Council shall appoint a registrar who act as a secretary, other officers and the servants. There are the different functions of the PCI. First is for the education regulation. So minimum standard of education laid down by the PCI are known as a education regulation, and it include first is a minimum qualification for registration as a pharmacist and minimum qualification for admission to diploma in pharmacy. Like minimum qualification for registration as a pharmacist is a diploma in pharmacy, and minimum qualification for admission to diploma in pharmacy was medical background or non-medical background. Then the duration of the training and courses of study to be covered, that is for the diploma in pharmacy, for the bachelor in pharmacy, for masters in pharmacy. Then conditions to be fulfilled by the academic institution and by the examining authority. Then the nature and period of the practical training, that whether it may be a hospital or industrial or analytical, and the subjects of examination and minimum standard of passing that examination. Then conditions to be fulfilled by the institution to be recognized for giving a practical training to the students. Practical training contract form for the pharmacist, and second is to regulate the education regulation in the states, and third is the approval of institutions providing courses and examinations for the pharmacist. In the procedure, institution has to apply to the Pharmacy Council of the India and AICTE, All India Central Technical Education. PCI and AICTE depute its inspectors to visit their institutes, and the inspector then report to the council, on which if council is satisfied, it approve the course of the examination. Next is the Provisional Pharmacy Council. Under its classification, it is of 2 types: separate state council and an interstate agreement. In the interstate agreement, there is a joint state council, and a state council of a one state serves a need to the another state. For the constitution of SPC, it consists of the different members like elected members, nominated members, and ex officio members. Again, in the elected members, there is a 6 members elected from amongst themselves by a registered pharmacist of the state, and 1 member elected from amongst themselves by the member of medical council of the state. Then in the nominated members, there are the 5 members, of whom at least 3 shall be possessing a degree or diploma in pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry or pharmacology, pharmacognosy or a pharmaceutics, or be registered pharmacists nominated by the state government. Then in the ex officio members, there is a chief administrative medical officer of the state, government analyst nominated by the state government under the Drug and Cosmetic Act 1940, officer in charge of drug control organization of the state. Then after that, there is a joint state pharmacy council. 2 or more states governments can agree that the state council of one state is to serve the needs of the participating states. Next is a composition of a joint state council. It consists of three different type of the members: elected members, nominated members, and ex officio members. In the elected members, 3 to 5 members elected amongst themselves by the registered pharmacist of each of the participating state. One member elected from amongst themselves by the members of each medical council of each state. Next is the nominated members. 2 to 4 members are nominated by each participating state, of whom more than a half possesses a degree or diploma in pharmacy or being a registered pharmacist. Next is ex officio members. The chief administrative medical officer of each participating state and the government analyst of each participating state and the officer in charge of drugs control organization of each participating state. After that, there is an executive committee that consists of the president, vice president, and the such other number of the members. Now, next is how we are going to register as a pharmacist. So, the Pharmacy Act 1948 provides for the registration of the pharmacist. There are the two different types of the registers. First is a first register and second is a subsequent register. So, the preparation and maintenance of register can be carried out by the following particulars. First is the full name and the residential address of the registered person, the date of his first admission to the register and his qualification for the register. The next is his professional address. If he is employed by any person, the name of such person must be included in that register. Such further particulars are as may be prescribed. So, whenever there is a preparation of the first register, for the preparation of first register, the state government has to constitute a registration tribunal. So, that tribunal consists of 3 persons. A registrar acts as a secretary. Tribunal fixes the date on or before which application for registration with prescribed fees are accepted. All applications are examined by them. Then if tribunal is satisfied, it directs the entry to the name of the applicant on the register. Now, next is what is the qualification requirement for entry on the first register. The applicant for the entry into the register should be at least 18 years old. Applicant should reside or carries on the business or profession of pharmacy in the concerned state. Applicant should hold a degree or diploma in pharmacy or in pharmaceutical chemistry or chemist or druggist diploma or qualification that will be granted by the authority outside the India which is adequate for registration. Degree of an Indian university with not less than a 3-year experience in dispensing in the hospitals. Passed an examination for dispensers recognized by the state government or not less than 5 years of experience of compounding prior to the date notified by the tribunal. Next, after the first registration, for the subsequent registration, what is the procedure? Now I am going to discuss. From the registered pharmacist of the first register of the state council take place. Applications are invited. Then they are going to, within fixed date, they are going to address to the registrar. If registrar found that the applicant has a requestee qualification, he may direct his or her name to entered in the register. If the application has been rejected by the registrar, he or she may appeal to state council within the 3 months of the rejection. The decision of state council shall be final. So, if they are going to found to enter their name, but if they are going to register, it is a responsibility of the candidate to appeal to the state council within the 3 months of the rejection, so that issue will be resolved. So, after that the decision of state council shall be final. Now, next, what are the requirements for the subsequent registration? Applicant should be at least 18 years of the age. That is the first, it should be a 18 year of the age. Next, applicant should carry on the profession of the pharmacy in the concerned state. Next is a qualification for the subsequent registration. There are the three different types of qualifications prescribed. First is after the preparation of first register and before education regulation take place. Second is after education regulation take place, and third is only under the special provisions. After the preparation of first register and before education regulation take effect, it satisfied the conditions prescribed by the central council or a registered pharmacist in another state, or possesses a qualification for registration granted outside the state and are at least matriculates. Next, after the education regulation take effect, those who have passed an approved examination or those who possesses a qualification granted by authority outside the India and recognized by the PCI, or those who are registered pharmacist in the another state. Next is a special provision. So provisions that made under the Pharmacy Act 1959 apply to the persons that who are affected by the partition in 1947, due to reorganization of the state in 1956, and those who are migrated to India. Provision made under the Pharmacy Act 1976, those who possesses degree or diploma in pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry, and those who have a chemist or druggist diploma of Indian University, or those who passed an examination recognized for dispenser by the state government. Person approved as qualified person before 31st December 1969 under the Drug and the Cosmetic Act. Any displaced person from Bangladesh, Burma, Uganda, Sri Lanka, they were carrying a profession of pharmacy for a period of 5 years prior to the date of application. Next is renewal fees. So the retention of name on the register subject to the payment of prescribed fee annually before the first day of April. If a renewal fee is not paid by the due date, the registrar shall remove the name of defaulter from the registrar. So it is required that if there is a requirement to pay the prescribed fees annually, then it must be paid before the first day of the April. If that fee will not pay by that due date that is given by the registrar, then the registrar shall remove the name of defaulter from the register of the pharmacist, provided that a name so removed may be restored to the register on such condition as may be prescribed. Next is on the payment of renewal fees, the registrar shall issue a receipt therefore, and such receipt shall be proof of renewal of the registration. So, entry of additional qualification obtained by the registered pharmacist shall be entered in the register on the payment of prescribed fees. As suppose during the first registration the candidate possesses only a diploma in pharmacy. Then after completing bachelor in pharmacy, or after completing master in pharmacy, for the additional qualification obtained by the registered pharmacist, they can enter in the register only by the payment of the prescribed fees. Next is what are the conditions under which the removal of name from the register carried out. The name of the pharmacist may be removed from the register if his name has been entered into the register by the error, or if he has convicted by any offence in any profession which renders him unfit to keep them in the register. Third is if the employed person is a registered pharmacist, his name may be removed from the register if convicted of offence or held guilty of infamous conduct, or offences was investigated by the registered pharmacist himself, or if the repetition of similar offence or conduct during the period of 12 months. Pharmacists may go to appeal to the state government within the 30 days for if their name is removed from the register. A person whose name has been removed from the register is required to surrender his certificate or registration to the registrar. Next is issue of duplicate certificates of the registration, where it is shown to the satisfaction of the registrar that a certificate of registration has been lost or destroyed. The registrar may, on the payment of prescribed fees only, issue a duplicate certificate in a prescribed form for the registered pharmacist. Next are the offences and the penalties. Now there are the various offences under which there is a penalties according to the Pharmacy Act 1948. First offence is if they are falsely claimed to be a registered pharmacist, then there will be a fine up to rupees 500 on the first conviction and fine up to 1000 for the or 6 months imprisonment of any subsequent conviction. So, if you are going to be falsely claimed that you are a registered pharmacist, then there may be an imprisonment of 6 months along with the fine. Second is dispensed by an unregistered person. Suppose the person is not registered except a medical practitioners. If they are a registered medical practitioners, they are the doctors, they are the dentists, they are dispense the medicine. But if any other person who is going to dispense the medicine by the unregistered person, then there will be a 6 months imprisonment or a fine up to 1000 or a both. So, you have to keep in mind that the dispensing should be done only by the registered person, not by the unregistered person. Next is a failure to surrender the certificate of the registration. Then there should be a fine up to rupees 50. Then obstructing a state pharmacy council inspectors, then there is a 6 months imprisonment or fine or up to 1000 or both. So now I am going to repeat the main points under this that we had already discussed. So what is the requirement for the according to the Pharmacy Council of the India, what is a Pharmacy Act? So this is mainly the act that is required to control and to raise the status of profession in pharmacy. Here there is a requirement to provide a uniform education, uniform training throughout the India, and to maintain a control over the persons entering a profession of the pharmacy. So according to that, we had already discussed about the definitions that for the what is a Pharmacy Act, under the medical practitioner who come under them, and for the registered pharmacist how your name is going to be entered in the register. Then we had already discussed the PCI composition, that the central PCI was constituted by the central government and it is reconstituted after every 5 years. After that, we had already discussed about the constitution of PCI, like elected members, nominated members, ex officio members were there for the appointment. So after that, we had already discussed about the functions of the PCI, like they had already decided that what is a minimum qualification is required for the registration, what is a minimum qualification for admission in diploma in pharmacy is required, how much training is required, and which kind of the practical training is required, and what are the different subjects that are required for the examination, and what are the minimum standards for the passing, which kind of the practical training should be given, how the institution fulfill the conditions, how they will recognized for the practical training, and how they are going to educate the education, regulate the education regulation. So how the approval of institution shall be provided by the PCI, right? So if they want approval, they have to apply. Then after that, they can dispute the inspectors, deputes inspectors, and after that they can make a report. If their council will be satisfied, they can approve them for that particular courses. After that, we had already discussed about the provisional pharmacy council, like there is a separate state council, there is a joint pharmacy council. So that after that, we had discussed about the registration of the pharmacist. There is a first register in which your first time name is going to be registered after completing your diploma or a degree, right? After that, there is a how they are going to maintain the register. It include your whole information about your name, residential address, your first admission date, then what was your qualification and your professional address also. Then after the preparation of the first register, they can enter your qualification. There is a age limit of the 18 years, right? And you must have a diploma in pharmacy or pharmaceutical chemistry, must have a chemist or a druggist diploma. Then for the subsequent registers, you have to take us for the subsequent registration. They will invite the application, they will fix the date, and they will address you to that register, right? But if their application will be rejected, then it's a duty of the candidate to appeal to the council within 3 months only. After that, it will be rejected. So requirements I had already discussed of 18 years old, and for the subsequent registration, there is a special provision is there also. Special provisions for the data those persons that are affected in a partition in 1947, and those who are migrated to the India, right? And after that, renewal fees I had already discussed, that is to be filled annually on the first day of the April. And if there is additional qualification after diploma, it may be a B Pharma, after B Pharma it may be a M Pharma, then that kind of the entry shall be done by the according to the Pharmacy Act only after the payment of the prescribed fees. And your name, removal of name under your offences shall be carried out. And if you had lost your registration certificate, then they can provide you registration certificate only after the prescribed fees. And offences and penalties I had already discussed. No dispensing should be done by the unregistered person. No any person is going to be claimed that I am a registered pharmacist if he or she is not a registered pharmacist, right? And that's all. Thank you.